Hello, Assalamualaikum dan selamat sejahtera. Nama saya Naim. I'm a fine art student studying in the UK. And welcome back to another episode of Tumpang Tanya. So this episode will be similar to the last, touching on Palestine issue, but it will be specifically on the relationship between Malaysia and Palestine. So again, we have Uncle Mazri and also our guest, Najla, who is studying law in the UK too. I would like to open the floor to Najla first to ask Uncle Mazri on this issue between Palestine and Malaysia.
My question to Uncle Mazri is, well, we've always known that Malaysia has stood in solidarity with Palestine for so long. My question is, how did this start? How did all of this start?
I think Malaysia has always been supportive of the Palestinian cause. I don't have the details, but I think since I was a bit young, I remember that the Palestinian issue have always been very important to us, even to the government, because we follow very active foreign policies in the 80s. When the Palestine declared the independence, yes, Arafat to the declaration of independence in I think 15 November 1988 in Algeria. Since right around there or slightly after that, there's a resident ambassador of Palestine in Kuala Lumpur. I think it's up until now. So I remember that when I watch usually the birthday of the king every year, there's always a congratulatory speech by the doyen of the diplomatic corps, usually the ambassador who's been here the longest. I can remember a few years that the ambassador of Palestine to Malaysia is the doyen of the diplomatic corps and giving that congratulatory speech. I'm very sure that the American ambassador is very elated at that. The support of the Palestinian cause have been there. There's a lot of goodwill. It is not a religious issue. Yes, there's some religious aspect of it, particularly regarding the Al-Aqsa Mosque. But it is more a humanitarian issue. It's more about a will, the aspiration of people to be free. And I think from oppression, from tyranny, from sort of apartheid, I think a lot of Malaysians can recognize with that, can associate with that. That I think is the basic way. I think there's also a lot of Palestinians. A lot of them came here to study, to do business and whatnot. I think that is the background of it. And this support at the government level and the people level have to continue until the current Prime Minister, his rousing speech at the United Nations. Also, past Prime Ministers have been consistent. One Prime Minister have visited Gaza, I believe, and when Hamas won the election in Gaza, I think in the 2000s, early 2000s, there was an election, and they legitimately represent the people of Gaza. But then we have been also in communication with them. As I said, one Prime Minister did visit Gaza, and other leaders have expressed their support. And we must also remember, we also supported the Bosnian fight for their own state in the 90s. We host a lot of their students at the International Islamic University Malaysia, and we give our peacekeepers, armed forces peacekeeper was sent there under the auspices of the United Nations, and later under the NATO Stabilization Force and Implementation Force at that time. We not only rhetoric about it. In a sense, about we also put our action where our mouth is. In the sense that yes, in the Bosnian we sent peacekeepers. I'm very sure if one day, God willing, there is peace in Palestine, and the United Nations ask for peacekeepers, I don't think why not Malaysia to contribute to secure the border of a new Palestinian state.
Interesting, interesting. Before I ask my question, I would like to give out like my understanding of like Malaysia in regards to Palestine. Because what I understand is that Malaysia is not really that kind of the international superpower, right? So like Malaysia doesn't really hold that power to like decide for the world. So I'm thinking what I understand is that when we support Palestine, even if we cannot decide, even if we cannot that much, our power to make Palestine a free independent state, but the action of just supporting Palestine is just trying to show the world, trying to influence the world that some countries are supporting this, and to show that it's not objective, that uh about Israel and Palestine is not objective, how Israel should, I mean, what's happening right now, in terms of like Israel is doing some, as people say, it's a war crime and all. So I'm understanding Malaysia's giving support to Palestine is just trying to reach out for influence. Yeah. So like, how do you
Yeah,
understand this?
we may be a medium-sized country, over 30 million people, not so small, not so big. But I think Malaysia's stand always in international issues have been very principled. We have not recognized Israel. 31 out of 57 OIC members have recognized Israel, had recognized Israel. So out of 10 ASEAN members currently, 7 recognize Israel diplomatically. Only three members, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Brunei, have not recognized Israel, and all are OIC members. But Indonesia do source weapons from Israel since the late 70s. We have not done so, and we have very principled. I don't know whether I haven't looked at my passport for a long time. We used to have any other countries have Israel, I think. So I think once we allow the religious visits to Batu Maqdis for not only Muslims, Christians. So I think we may be not that big, but we must realize that if all countries were to think that I'm not that big, there are about 190 countries members of the UN, 90 over. If all the small countries were to think it that way, they each have a vote in the General Assembly. If they were to think, oh, I'm not so big, then the majority of them will think that way. Then a lot of tyranny can happen in this world. If we don't at least put a megaphone to it, then our voice to it, then our moral support, if it cannot do anything else, our moral support. I'm very sure Malaysia is sending help in terms of resources to help the plight the Palestinian people through the government or to the non-governmental organizations. The perpetrators of injustice, of tyranny, can get away with much. So it's important. And we must pressure countries like the United States. Sometimes the Americans would like to say, oh, look what happened to the Jews in the Holocaust. Yes, Holocaust did happen. 6 million or more people died under very tragic circumstances. But the perpetrators is Germans, Adolf Hitler, the Nazi Party, no Muslims. We did nothing to perpetrate that. We did nothing to help that. So you cannot blame the Muslims and say, oh, see, you are denying the Holocaust. We're not denying the Holocaust. But we have no hand towards that. So the West also should take a very close look at their own actions. See, fascism, it started with Benito Mussolini in the 20s in Italy. It's an Italian creation, fascist, the black shirts. Nazi Party, National Socialist Workers' Party, a creation of the Germans, not us. So, in the Iberian Peninsula in the 15th century, when they complete the reconquest of the Muslim, it was not the Muslim who threw out the Jews from the Iberian Peninsula. It was the Spaniards who did that. And we were not the one that give other people's land to other people without their permission. It was the British that did that. So we need to be fair when trying to put Muslims into a very bad picture. We're understanding the complex issue that is behind this tragedy. So you cannot just make judgment, oh, Israel have the right to defend itself. Yes, but the Palestinian people have the right to defend themselves also. So you must be fair to that. And the Palestinians are fighting with not as advanced technology with the help of the Americans and not that. So you must be very fair. In order for there to be security for Israel, the Americans and the Israelis must ensure security for the Arab neighbors. You don't work with ensuring your own security by causing insecurity in your neighbors. It doesn't work that way. You can choose your friends, but you cannot choose your neighbors.
I have a question regarding, how you said about this countries, how they should not think of themselves as like having no power. But like, there's this issue about in the United Nations where they wanted to vote for the ceasefire and it was vetoed by the US. So I mean, like, isn't that kind of like a major problem where you give this power to only one country? What can you say about that?
There are 5 permanent security members: United States, United Kingdom, France, China, and Russia. I forgot Russia.
Mm-mm.
5 countries with permanent, and the architecture of the Security Council and the United Nations are leftovers from post-World War II, when the victors basically dictates the international global order, whether political or economic wise. So we need to reform this, and there's already plans, but it haven't reached fruition because if for me, it's better that not 5 members have veto power. Not each of them have veto power. Maybe there's a 1 veto power, but among the 5 permanent members, it must be a 4-1 decision, or it must be 5-0. Then veto can be invoked. If no 5 members cannot support one issue, then no veto. Even 4-1 also. So maybe that should be the case. But this is, I think, reform at the international level. That's why I say when Biden went to Israel, it signaled a different era. An era where nations no longer. There was a time, say in the first Gulf War, 1991, when Iraq invaded Kuwait, the United Nations patiently waited for UN resolution in order to give umbrella for them to take military action against Iraq. But after that, even this semblance of legitimacy currently after 9/11 is no longer expected. So big countries will do as they will. They will try a way around the United Nations system. United Nations is important already. It's a relic. It's a talk shop. Every year people go there and give speeches, and doesn't matter. If the president of the United States give a speech, that's important. Everybody want to listen. If the People's Republic of China president come, that's important. But each of them take action as they want. The first invasion of Ukraine, say, by Russia in 2014, the Crimea area, they did it. Second invasion, they did it also. the West start supplying weapons to Ukrainian, it happens. United Nations is no longer there. It's not being consulted. It's not being even the veneer of it being used as a legitimacy seal is no longer there. So I believe this is going to continue. Big countries, powerful countries. This is why small countries need to ready on the important subject. If not, then we are in trouble, because if big powers want to take action and they don't care about the United Nations, what will happen to us? We need to make sure that this is the thing that young people and NGOs and advocate about. A more just world, a more just international system. So some countries are not members of the ICC. The United States are not. So they're actually free to do what they want. So that is important that some sort of a new global order which is more equitable, more based on the rule of law, rather based on the what you can get away with, you do.
So any questions from Najla? Do you have more questions for Uncle Masri?
One final thought. As Najla and Naim, we're youngsters, obviously. What can our age group do to basically contribute in helping in terms of maybe we could raise donations or just use our platforms, anything like that?
I think today's young people, youth, teenagers are very powerful, since in the tip of their fingers they have a lot of tools in order to magnify their advocacy as compared to maybe 20, 30 years ago. And I think with this awesome power, responsibility, it must be used in a responsible but very well planned manner, in the sense that pick an issue, pick a thing that is close to your heart. World justice. What kind of world do you want to see in your vision, and works towards that? Maybe it's a small project, one part of it, but it is still important for me, in my opinion, because if everybody in this world just doesn't care, then we are heading into a world where it's a very dangerous place, where what is right is no longer matter. What capture your interest matters, but what is right, what is the right thing to do no longer matters. And I think that's a world we don't want to live in, because it will be dangerous for everybody.
Interesting. Yeah, I do agree that, young people and how efficient we are with technology, it's easy for us to actually spread our voices online. So I guess we need to utilize that for this issue, for this Palestine issue. So I have no other questions. So thank you very much for this episode, for Uncle Masri to explain. So as a conclusion, I mean, Malaysia, of course, we're not that big of a superpower, but these small voices, even our voices from Malaysia, is important in order to help this Palestine issue. As bak kata pepatah Melayu kan, sikit-sikit lama jadi bukit. Even with small things can actually result to a change. So Najla, do you have any last words for our audience?
Following on from that, don't think that any of your effort is wasted. Every small thing counts. So just use your platform, get out there, and use your voice to stand on the right side of history.
Yes, exactly. So once again, thank you, Najla, and thank you, Uncle Masri, for this insightful discussion. So to end our episode, I would like to remind you guys, do not forget to like and subscribe to get, to just get this information on what's happening around the world. And that's all. Sekian, terima kasih, dan Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.